All right, what's up? What's up? It's your boy Corey B. So I want to talk about a phrase that is said that kind of tends to rub some people the wrong way. People of the world. Of the world. Like the phrase of the world tends to rub certain people the wrong way. And some people almost, a lot of times I've heard Christians that say it almost with kind of a tone, you know? As if it's to be insulting or like to look down upon, right? Okay, so there's a scripture in Luke 16:8, and this is the middle of a parable, so I'm not going to read the whole parable because the whole thing isn't the point. I just want this key phrase that Jesus says right here. But Jesus is talking about this. There's this business owner, right? There's this business owner, and he has this guy who manages all his affairs and things and stuff. And anyways, as he goes on and on, as the parable goes on, then he says, the master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. Of the light. So that's the phrase right there that I want to focus in on. Not the whole message, because the key thing that I want to take away, I could talk about this parable. I just heard an entire sermon on this parable. So we could talk about this whole parable for a good while. Not to mention that they spend an entire sermon going over half of the parable, not the whole thing. So what I want to do is I want to just talk about this key phrase, because in this key phrase, Jesus refers to the people of this world, opposed to the people of the light. Jesus is known as the light, right? He's the light in the world, right? So if Jesus is the light, and you can either be people of the world or children of the world or children of the light, I think the idea and the concept here that some people overlook, it's just the people who are born and they grow up and they have a worldly mentality, right? A sinful mentality. We're all sinners. At the end of the day, we're all sinners and we're all falling short of the grace of God. It's only by God's infinite grace and mercy and the blood of Jesus that allows us into heaven. It's not by our own doing. It's not by our own actions, because we're never going to be good enough. We're never going to get that mark, right? Because we're never going to be perfect. We're in a world of sin. And we walk daily. We have a choice. We have a choice daily to give in to sin or to die to thyself, right? So when it says children of the world, like I said, this phrase, I've heard it so many times, and I hear it amongst Christians. And like I said, sometimes they say, oh, you're of the world or you're worldly. And when they say it, it's almost got this, like I said, as if they're looking down on them, which that's not our job. As Christians, it's not for us to judge. I've talked about that in posts before, and I hope that this carries some weight. Is that the reality is that it's not our job to judge. That in itself is sin. To judge is to be sinful. It is our job to share the love of Christ and share the good news that Lord Jesus was sent to save us. His blood was spilled so that way we could be spared. And that's an incredible mindset. If you can really, truly give into that mindset, that is living for the kingdom, because then you begin to develop a closer relationship with Jesus and a closer walk with God. And you develop to spend more time in prayer and in the Word. And as you spend more time in the Word and more time in prayer, then it changes how you think. It changes how you behave. It changes your entire mentality. And if you can get to that point, it's not a point of perfection, because you'll never attain that, but it's to a point that you're seeking God more. And if you get to that point, then you will judge others less. And you will be walking in the light instead of walking in the world. The world encourages judgment. Like, everybody judges in the world. This is a thing, you know? And it's crazy because, like, let's look at kids. Kids are a great example. I love utilizing children to understand things. And I love how he refers to us right there. It's like perfect. He refers to us as children, children of the world opposed to children of the light. He refers to, this is a man who's, I don't know, 40s, 50. And he's referring to him as a child. When you look at our young children, our children learn these behaviors. They learn these behaviors. They learn to judge. We send our children to school, take our children around their cousins, take them around our neighbors, from the time they're little, right? And when they're in preschool or daycare, or they're in a Sunday school class at church, or that you take them with your neighbors or to a barbecue with the community, right? Those little 2 and 3 and 5-year-olds, they have no judgment. They don't look at another kid who's different than them, dressed nicer than them, dressed, in I don't know. They don't walk in shame if they're not dressed as nice as someone else, but they don't cast judgment on those who are dressed not as nice as them or not as nice as someone else. They don't look at someone's skin tone and say, oh, well, this, that, or whatever. They don't look at, oh, well, I don't like little boys because I'm a little girl, or I'm a little boy, so I don't like little girls. They learn that behavior as they get older, as they interact more with other children, and as they interact more with other people. It's a learned behavior for them to cast judgment upon other people. Now, the one thing that may be different is when we teach them right and wrong, especially my oldest. I definitely saw that in him. He had a strict, for his whole, even still now, he's 10 now, but from the time he could talk, it mattered to him when someone was doing something wrong. Because we had taught him little rules and stuff, and his mentality is just part of his personality. He's such a stickler for rules. Like rules and guidelines, this is what you do. You follow these things. And I'm not saying it's even a bad thing for him to be like that, because I'm definitely happy that he's a stickler for rules. But it's definitely something I have had to teach him to not be so quick to judge other people because they don't follow the rules. Because sometimes those are family rules. So those are just for my family. They're rules that I made. They're not rules that other families have, right? So it's not necessarily wrong that someone else is doing it. Now, if it's something like a law, like, oh, this is the speed limit, or like he used to have a big thing about jaywalking. Like he'd be like, oh, that guy over there is jaywalking. And I'm like, well, in this particular neighborhood or this particular area of the city, yes, jaywalking is illegal and he shouldn't be doing it. But, just say a prayer for him that he's going to be okay. Because those laws are implemented for safety. They're not implemented. Some people would argue that laws are implemented for control, but the reality is that the idea behind it is for safety. It's like, I'm going to tell people no jaywalking in this area because I know this area is a high trafficked area, or whatever rationale they have behind it. But they always have a rationale. They have some kind of theory or idea that validates why they would come up with some said law or policy or rule. The reason that your parents come up with rules or policies are for their household. The reason your teachers or bosses come up with policies or guidelines at your job or your school or whatever. It's like all of these things are implemented with purpose. They're implemented because at some point something went left. And when it did, they're like, hey, you know what? How can we make sure this never happens again? We're going to make sure this never happens again by implementing this rule that would prevent said issue to occur. So Corey was such a stickler for rules being like concrete. So he's like, why would, and it's like, so you've got to have a more kingdom mindset. You got to think bigger. And it's definitely been an effort. I'm glad that I'm glad Corey was so open about these things, because him being open about these things gave me opportunities to discuss these things with him. Because some kids, they have thoughts, but they don't share them. Well, he shared them, and he didn't go around pointing fingers at other people, but he would tell me, hey, there's a guy over there, and he's jaywalking, or this guy's over there, and he's doing the wrong thing, or yeah. And they broke the rules, or we're playing a board game, and he broke the rules, and these things mattered. And sometimes it mattered, like in a game, because he wanted to win. But also, like I said, at the end of the day, he's a stickler for policy and for rules and for order in his life, And like I said, it's given me ample opportunities to have discussions with him that it's not for him to judge others. And I've tried to always be practical about it, right? I've tried to tell him, well, that's what police are for. The police will catch the people who are doing something bad, but that's not all police are there for. Police are also here to protect us and help us and guide us through things, and be there for us. They'll stop for someone who's got a flat tire, hopefully, and things like that, So also our teachers are there, and if your neighbor at your neighbor desk, little Billy's acting up and he's doing this and he's doing that and whatever, your teacher will take care of it. It's not for you to be so concerned with that. Just, you can be polite and be there for Billy and be like, hey Billy, like maybe you shouldn't do that. It's probably not the best thing because the teacher told us to work on our arithmetic worksheet, but ultimately it's not for you to continue to berate him, and it's not for you to condemn him or judge him either. Just let the teacher handle it. That's what she's there for. That's what he's there for. And so it's definitely been a work in progress, but I feel like it's going, the fact that he's been so open about these things, it's given us opportunity to have these discussions. And I think maybe we'll have less issues as he gets older, because I think that's, like I said, it's a commonplace in our society that we condition people to be judgmental. We condition people to say, hey, that's wrong, that's right, that's right, that's wrong. And especially in Christianity, churches are extremely guilty of this. Churches are guilty of condemning other religions. Churches are guilty of condemning other churches of the same religion because they're getting it wrong. And that's not Christian. It's just not. If you're going to claim, Christian, and nobody's perfect, but if you're going to be on a platform as a pastor, as a minister, as a leader in your church or your community or whatever, then you've got to hold yourself to a bit higher of a standard, because the reality is the society is going to hold you to a bit higher of a standard. So in a nutshell, I feel like I was a little bit everywhere there, but I think the point is that we need to implement this idea into our daily life. Are we going to be of the world, or are we going to be of the light? And like I said, to me, of the world is having a worldly mentality, and being of the light is having a kingdom mindset. When you think about things, you think about how it's going to affect the kingdom, how it's going to affect God's kingdom, not how, we get so caught up in what's right and wrong that we're passing judgment, and God says it's not your job to judge. So that's not behaving with a kingdom mindset. That's behaving with a worldly mindset for you to have to walk in judgment of others. I just think it's something we got to spend more time with. And ultimately, I'd like to dive into this more, and considering doing just a series on this kingdom mindset ideology, because I think it goes so deep, to the extent that, like I said, today I just want to kind of talk about this basic idea of judgment and how we could approach things differently, and we can begin to think about things with what is truly most important. And if we do that, then I think we'll be in a better place, we'll be happier, and we'll be actually serving the kingdom more. But I think there's so many things else. Your happiness, your bliss, the peacefulness in your life, the levels of stress in your life, the way you communicate with other people, the way you operate within your finances, the way you operate within your household or your community and your church, with your extended family who are outside your household. I think all these things, really, what mindset you have, the foundation of your mindset, if it's kingdom or worldly, is going to affect how you're going to deal with all of those different scenarios, and in every possible instance that you have in your life, you're going to approach it differently if you have a kingdom mindset opposed to worldly. So I think this is going to be the first of several episodes that I'd like to do a series, and I'm going to dive into that, just because the more I've done this, I just got more things running through my head that I feel like this needs to be impacted so much more. And let's dive into the different areas of what it does for your life to have that kingdom mindset. So with that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope it helps you. Please do share it with somebody else, because somebody else might need to hear this. And I say these things because I care, not because I'm passing judgment on you if you're one of those who judge, because I think all of us judge at times. I think all of us get caught up in our worldly, fleshly mentality, and we cast those stones. We do. So I think we all just need to do better at helping one another. Yeah. So I hope this helps somebody. I hope it speaks to you. And please be sure, if you haven't yet, subscribe and ding that bell so you get your notifications, so you don't miss out on any more of the series that this is the first episode. All right, it's your boy. Y'all be blessed. Y'all have a great day. Talk to you later.